This is my drum recordings for Even If I Tried. Starting out with the kick drum, I've got EQ compressor and noise gate. The EQ is on a punchy kick setting. It's just sort of reducing some of the mids and increasing the highs to get sort of that attack of the kick and get that thud. So you've got more of the beater hitting with the skin, which I think is also good. I've got a compressor on a rock kick set to not too harsh compression, but not not no compression at all, just to sort of tighten up the track and sort of increase the overall levels of the kick. I've also got a noise gate on, just sort of tighten up any low frequencies and things in the mix, and just sort of all that dirtiness from the recording. I've got sort of a EQ compressor and noise gate. That's the same for sort of all the tracks. Each track is slightly different EQ settings, and compressor settings, depending on what it is. But generally, they're all just sort of creating the tone for the overall sound of the drums, and then generally the noise gate for each track is just sort of um, it's just sort of cleaning up the track and removing any low frequencies that aren't needed. But for the kick, I've got an envelope on. It's just sort of adding more punch, sort of increasing the attack of the drum and getting that punchy kick drum sound that has that's got good attack and then a nice sustain to it. With a bit of sort of like airiness to the kick, I think is quite nice. And I think adding the punch and then sort of letting it just reverberate sort of creates that kind of airiness to the kick. I've also got a Fat FX on, just sort of boosting. It's just sort of boosting the bass. Got a bass enhancer on, and it just sort of boosts the bass and gives the kick drum sort of a low end qualities, which I think is good. And then I've got sort of a match EQ, which is sort of like it's kind of create sort of molding all the effects together in a way. That's sort of kind of what I was going for with this, because obviously it's not in the typical plays. Usually, it'd probably be I'd move it up to there, but it's at the bottom, just to sort of mold the track together really, and sort of create an overall sound of the kick drum. And then I've got a sub bass on, just sort of on kick warmer, and it's just sort of warming up the kick and just sort of giving the kick some warmth and sort of a bit of character. And that's the kick. Moving on, we've got again the snare EQ, just cleaning up, reducing sort of the low end that's not really needed, but still having a little bit of lower end for some fatness, and removing some of the middle frequencies, and then boosting the highs a little bit just to get sort of that high resonance, that high crack from the snare. And I've got a compressor, just sort of tightening up the track, increasing the overall volume of the track. That is basically what the compressor is doing. It's just sort of obviously taking the top and the bottom frequencies, just sort of crushing it together so that the audio is just a little bit tighter and can also be increased in volume as well. Then a noise gate just is cleaning up the track. I added an envelope and to add more attack to the snare, just giving the snare some, attack, some stick to skin sort of thing, contact, and adding an attack gives gives the gives the snare a sort of a crack to it, which I think is really good, and it allows the snare to sort of cut through the mix. I've also added a fat FX as well onto the snare, just to give it a bit of fatness to it, and I think that's good because it really, you know, it gives the snare some fatness and sort of gives makes the snare a bit more round in its tonal qualities, which I think is good. And then again, the Max EQ just sort of doing the same thing as I said for the kick, just um, sort of shaping the overall sound. To be honest, I put this on at the end, and it sounded quite good with it on, and so I decided to test it out for some other things like the snare and the was and the rat tom. That was it, and it sounded quite good. So I just decided to leave it on there. Now I have this is a MIDI hi hat which I put on because the I thought the cymbals and the hi hat were just sort of a bit messy from the sort of the comping and things of the tracks, and so I added in sort of a bit of cymbal in here. There's some hi hats and some ride and stuff going on, just to sort of make the track seem more like the cymbals were just a bit more together and a bit more singular. Like there's only one ride or one cymbal being hit at once, not sort of like a few in a short period of time, like the cymbals being flammed all the time, hitting with two sticks and things. But I think that's definitely sort of a weakness of the drum recording. The cymbals and stuff from the comping and stuff's just a little bit messy. But to solve that, potentially I might add samples to the drums, because I have samples of these drums, and so I might add samples to the drums, which would then enable me to sort of define the whole drum part and add that in, and so actually I could have I would have more definition from sort of the sticks and from the cymbals and stuff of what's going on. So I think adding samples would definitely tidy up the drums a bit, because I could add samples in, increase the samples a bit, and have sort of this audio sort of slightly lower in the mix, but it still be there for ambience and things like that. But it would make the drum kit seem a lot more together. But moving on, the rack tom and floor tom, I haven't really done a lot to. I've just sort of got EQ compressor noise gate, sort of an EQ just sort of increasing the main frequencies where the toms lie. So the high tom here just sort of increasing sort of where it sits, and then the floor tom just got sort of an overall lower end um, floor tom here, and then just sort of reducing the higher end slightly, just to remove some of the high frequencies from the floor tom. But then I've got a compressor and noise gate. Compressor just sort of tightening up the sound, just sort of light compression, not too harsh, and just increasing the overall volume of the sound. And then the floor tom sort of doing the same. And then the rack tom with the Match EQ is, like I said before, doing just sort of shaping the overall sound. And then I've got the tom Fat FX just sort of boosting the sort of the lower end to the floor tom. So it is. So it's a proper. So it's got some good low end um, low end volume to it, which I think is good because I think the floor tom needs a bit of low end as it is, a lower tuned drum, and it's a bigger drum than the high tom. And I've got sort of two overheads. Just I've sort of kept them fairly simple, fairly natural. Also done a bit of panning. Um, I originally had them full left and right, but then actually listening to it, I thought it sounded just a bit too wide. So I have moved them into only -40 and +40 on either side. But they're left pretty natural, just a bit of EQ, just increasing the high ends, and then some compression. It's on electric bass. Is that one on electric bass as well? That's on rock kick. I think that may have glitched out because I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be on electric bass. But if I go to uh, type R, type drum should probably do the trick. I just turn it up, turn that down a little bit. Yeah, I think that was a glitch, but I can do that instead. So yeah, the compressor basically is just some slight compression, not too much. I'll turn that up a bit, and a bit of gain, and just increasing the volume a bit, and then noise gate is the same as before, and then the overhead right same EQ, and that's all the same. I think I may just that should be the same if I just there we go. Set to if I just turn that up, and that's set to the same. It's all that's the same, even though it says a different thing up here that doesn't really affect anything. All the knobs and stuff are all the same. But yeah, so the compressor just sort of tightening up the track and boosting it a bit. And then I got the room mics doing a similar sort of thing. I've just got a bit of cymbal EQ here, just sort of increasing the high ends. I don't want to do it too much, so I thought then it would just be too much. It'd be too much high end and it'd be a bit too harsh. So I just wanted a little bit. And then I've got some compression as well, just sort of tightening up the whole overall track and giving the track a bit of boosting. But overall, I have kept the room mics and the overheads fairly natural because I want them. I don't want to change the tones or the sounds of anything of these overhead mics and rooms. I still want it to sound fairly natural how it was recorded. So that's why I've left those sort of as is. But yeah, that's the drums.